If you have a problem getting the other two back, we still have a quorum. Ron, Rick, you guys still there? I see your names up there on the screen. So we're back from recess. We're going with item number 4B, site plan and conceptual approval, case SP 2022-197. Samantha, will you give us an update, please?
Thank you, Chairman. We have with us again Ron Senna here to explain the remainder of the request site plan and concept approval to include the development of this 2.2769 acre tract. They do plan on connecting to public utilities. Engineering is in progress. It has been procured. Contracts are in place, and engineering will be finalized prior to any construction or permits being sought. But I'll go ahead and let Ron explain. He obviously has some density changes to what I presented to you all in your case study
Good.
packet.
Mr. Senna, you're still sworn in.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this is I have provided you with a revised site plan here. We're looking at a total of 17 units. We are adding 4 3-bedroom units, and then we've changed one of the, it was a 16 by 44 to a 16 by 60. And that'll leave us with 17 units is what we're looking at. Also, we have, as Mr. Pippin had asked about the P&M on their transformers, we have moved the units 5 feet to accommodate for that with P&M. So we did have a discussion with the engineers yesterday with P&M, and we were that was an easy way to get that access for P&M to run the transformers and the underground power to the units themselves. So we are bringing them in 5 feet to accommodate for that. So, on the site plan. So we'll stand for any questions on here. Samantha also had some other items on there like dumpsters, lighting. There's fire hydrants. We have our water lines listed on this one, and just for the utilities, etc. We will have we will be having sewer placed to this section also. I know that the Family Dollar asked about sewer because right now they're not they're on a septic, and we would have those services there available also for the Family Dollar to connect to the village sewer.
Correct. So, all right. So I guess just to start this off, is there any commissioner questions? Because I'm going to hold mine off until after the public hearing and ask the staff about services and such. So any general questions?
I kind of wonder why there couldn't be another exit onto Meacham than the one there currently is.
Tim, I think you mentioned that, didn't you? Because they're using Family Dollar driveway, this one, correct? We're right next to it.
Mr. Chairman, if you actually look at the way that we've set this up, you're absolutely correct. You know, in purchasing the property, when you look at the driveway permit that was issued to Dollar General, they labeled and permitted this as a dual driveway going onto this property. So it's actually a roadway easement that exists on the property. If you looked at the end of the development, we're anticipating at some future point in time, we're going to be attempting to gain access to the next property over, and then, eventually connecting it to our other property that we purchased next to P&M. That's speculative. We can't guarantee it. So we've made that design standard according to the code to create a T at the end of that roadway. And that's what the code calls for. So that's how come you either have to end in a cul-de-sac or a T. So we don't have an additional access right now. And that's the same thing that, if there is potential discussing with Mr. Pippin in the future, there's been talk about trying to improve that as well. So that's how come we dead-ended the road on that side the way that we did, so it provides additional opportunity. Right now, it's pretty limited, and that's why we've configured it the way that we have.
So the part that goes to the north into Mr. Pippin's property is just there up by plat. You're going to have it for future, maybe.
That's correct.
Okay.
One other question. So how many people could you potentially have occupying these homes, this space, this development? As in, you have, I don't know how many, 16 by 44, those are 2-bedroom? Or one? Two?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, when we look at the ones that are along Meacham, those ones that we're identifying as 16 by 44,
Right.
that's a potential 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom. There's different configurations. If this one's a 1-bedroom, it'll have a porch on the front. So the entrance will be on the front of the mobile home. It'll be a single bedroom with a kitchen and living room. If it's a 2-bedroom, and that's there's a couple of 14 or 16 by 44s that are facing the other direction, facing the street.
Okay.
Those are a 2-bedroom, and they have a living room in the center with 2 bedrooms. It looks kind of like more like a dorm style type of a modular manufactured home. So it really depends on the placement of them.
And your 16 by 60s are 3, and 16 by 80s are 4-bedroom.
The 16 by 60s are a different configuration of a 2-bedroom,
Okay.
and then the 16 by 80s are 3 bedrooms.
Okay.
We don't have any 4 bedrooms on this property.
Okay, I thought it would have to be difficult to do that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have some questions about how we got to the site plan here. I can reserve that until after we hear the public comments, if that is better for you, Chairman.
That's fine. I just wonder if there's just anything in general. You guys want to go ahead and open the public hearing and see what people have to say, and then we will close it and ask questions about the site plan? If that's no problem. Okay, we're going to open the public hearing for this case, for the site development case. If there's anybody that wasn't on the first one, did not swear in to tell the truth, you stand up and tell the truth now. If not, we will go ahead and start hearing from the public. Adam, you're not public. Is there anybody that wishes to speak for or against this site plan development on this area that we just gave a conditional use for?
Chairman Briley, there is Lisa Burns with her hand raised.
Ms. Burns, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chairman and members of the commission. I'm really impressed with your comments to date, and I really like the idea that you're flexible on the number of units. And I like the idea that you're able to, not just, say it's going to be like this set in concrete, because I think there are a lot of moving parts. And as referenced by those 2 kind of roads to nowhere, and the main road, which is on the Dollar General, which is the property that my husband and I own. And what we're concerned about is that there's the way the parking is configured. There's no guest parking. There's parking that I think, when you have larger families and things, you're going to have multiple cars. We don't want to be the parking lot to this development. And it looks like that's what's going to happen here. And we're concerned that, just because, they'll say, oh, it's no problem. If we're coming to a party, just park in the Dollar General, and then you can just walk in, and we just don't want to be that, and we don't know how to say no, and we don't want to be the police, and we don't want to be bad neighbors. But you have to realize that we have a pretty good business, and we want to make it convenient for our stop and go people to find easy parking. That's our main concern. I'm looking forward to hearing more details about what the fencing, what the lighting, considering your dark sky conditions are, but we need security and also just general screening. And I think you have our letter. I don't know if you want me to go through the points of the letter, but I was kind of hoping that I'd hear more specifics on the site planning, because I think a lot could be done to make it more aesthetic especially retaining some of the mature trees on site. So I'm going to listen, but that's basically my comments. If I have to just off the top of my head. Thank
Okay,
you.
Ms. Burns, what we'll do is after we have our public hearing, have our question and answers, I will go ahead and see if you've got enough information, because a lot of things, what you said, I think our commission is going to be asking those questions as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I did have one more. I'll promise I'll stop at that.
I'm public hearing. So anybody else wish to speak for or against this site development plan? Going? Gone. We're going to close the public hearing. Vicki, you had a question.
I think I forgot what it was.
All right, I'll
Mr. Chairman, just, if I may, this is a preliminary site development plan. There's still a lot that's going to go on here. We are under contract to develop this, and if there's areas that we can work to help accommodate even some of the things that are not in the code, we don't mind doing that. We want to come up with a site development that, Rio Doso is going to be proud of and that can be a model on how we can move forward. So we're not opposed to the conversation.
I know what it was.
go ahead.
You have obvious, it's kind of a silly question, but we don't have cul-de-sacs. Can the fire department make it all the way around this whole development?
That's a question. I have the directors here because, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, the directors have met, taken a look at this. It's what we call a development review. And every single director within the village of Ruidoso has commented on this. Can you come down and comment on it? And, when we do look at the code, when you ever end a street that is, doesn't have a different out, the code talks about either ending with a T, which we're doing in this case, or a cul-de-sac. And the T has to meet the radiuses, so.
That's right.
Captain.
Good afternoon, Captain Wilson. We feel confident with not having a cul-de-sac there with that T. Our apparatus we can confidently get in there and get turned around if needed. We can gain access to all the homes and the residents in that area. Okay. Fire protection would be covered on our end, and we do have hydrants on every corner. So we're confident in this.
Yeah.
Okay, since you're here, so I know we haven't gone through a real site plan as far as how much we're raising the grade and whatever, but if it is built low, how much of, it's called a K value, how much elevation change do you need to get a truck in?
I feel confident with anything that's presented right there. There's a lot of situations here in the village of Ruidoso. The grade changes, our trucks as they are right now perform fine. And we do have capability coming up later too. If there is any kind of grade change or anything, we have a four-wheel drive Class A engine that's going to be available within the next year.
Because the driveway off Meacham is not too bad into the Family Dollar there, and then I'm not sure, based on what I've seen, how much more it's going to drop, if any.
We have pretty high clearance on all of our engines.
Anything else for the captain? Okay, continue the questions. Anybody? Okay, fine. It's you and me. Let's go.
Mr. Chairman, I was waiting for the question how we got to the site plan.
Yes, that is my question. Could you please address how we got to this site plan and the usage of the site plan? We'll start there.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I broke out some crayons and paper, and I sketched a plan. Being the previous community development director, I am trained in planning and zoning.
Right.
And, I actually did do, and I'm not kidding, I did do I didn't use crayons, but I did use colored pencils to draw this out and, did the measurements, and then we hired a professional engineer, and I gave him my concept, and he turned it into this preliminary plat. And it was after work.
So just to clarify then, was there other configurations considered that might increase the density for this location, or where did we come up with the 19 spots?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, there was other configurations. This wasn't exactly what I proposed, But, once they put it into, a program and did it, this is what the engineer is recommending to, give density and spacing and whatnot. So from a professional standpoint, making sure we make the radiuses and everything else, this is what he had proposed. We came back and said, he had the additional 19 units at first, and we came back and said, hey, no, we need some 3 bedrooms in here. So we gave him the reconfiguration, adding the 4 3-bedrooms and eliminating 2 of the other homes.
Mr. Chairman, was there ever consideration to go vertical with the density? Looking into other type structures where you could potentially have more than 1 unit on each of the 19 plats that you have?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, no, that wasn't considered. What we're targeting is manufactured and modular homes so that we can get somewhere within the cost value of $70 to $90 a square foot. And, the way that we're actually being able to accomplish that is we own the property, utilizing our purchasing power and then utilizing our tax deference powers that we have.
Mr. Chairman, follow up on that. So you said manufactured and modular. They're 2 distinctly different, as we talked about earlier, in terms of building codes and how they're built on site. Are you considering modular homes instead of manufactured?
Mr. Chairman, our RFP is open to both manufacturing and modular homes. HUD has, the federal government has in place anti-discrimination laws. We can't, discriminate against manufacturer or modular. We have to put out an RFP, and we have to consider the lowest and best price at the most reasonable and fair and equitable type of a bid. And just one other thing that, all these homes are being built to the Uniform Building Code and not being built with, 30-inch doors and, the windows that are specific to manufactured homes. And they're all, you could go and purchase a window down at Home Depot and put it in any of the units that will be built.
Mr. Byers?
Question, are these going to be set on a permanent foundation, or are they just going to be staked and skirted?
These ones here will not be placed on a permanent foundation. They'll be placed on piers, and they'll be skirted with an aesthetic skirting, is what we expect. There's some skirting that looks like rock. A fine example of that is the property over off of Sunny Slope, right there where Sunny Slope, and it splits off to White Mountain Meadows, right on the corner, catty corner from the ball field. There's a gentleman that's used that skirting to skirt his mobile home, and it looks beautiful.
All right, so I'm going to ask a few questions, and then you guys maybe follow up on some of these things. So skirting was one of my questions. So for the manufactured homes, there is a requirement in the Village of Ruidoso to have them skirted no matter what, right? Okay. Is there a waiting list for these housings already, or how are you going to pick and choose the people that go into these houses?
Mr. Chairman, we do have a list of 17 families that have been displaced. They would be given priority as we worked with them. They would have to have gone through the registration process and qualified to be placed in there. And once those families are addressed that are displaced, then we would open it up to workforce housing and start a list. Right now, we have an RFP out that is actually at the review committee. There is a local realtor that we will be issuing a contract to manage these properties on behalf of the Village of Ruidoso. And they would be utilizing the criteria established on the intake in accordance with the Affordable Housing Act.
These 17 that you have already, I guess, have a waiting list for, that families have been displaced, are those all from the McBride fire, or I guess, are they village residents or county residents?
Mr. Chairman, A number of those individuals are couch surfing within the village of Ruidoso and within Lincoln County.
Yeah.
They're displaced, so I would consider them residents of Lincoln County and Ruidoso.
I think it's a good idea. I'm just concerned about the time with price escalations and everything. Building infrastructure is getting harder and harder right now. So what kind of timeline do you have for getting this done?
Mr. Chairman, my timeline is to be placing mobile homes by August 1st, and our RFP does lock the prices in place. There's currently 17 manufactured and modular home companies that we have engaged in the RFP process, and the bids are due next Friday.
So you are going to put in the homes before you have infrastructure, before you have roads, water, sewer, electric, and everything in?
Mr. Chairman, my schedule is to have all the infrastructure complete before we start laying.
Good luck.
The all-weather roads, we will be placing the manufactured homes prior to so that we don't tear them up. And, we are going to be leveraging our current Cutler project and the millings coming off of that to help us develop those roads.
The width of your road easements, you're not doing dedicated roads, is that correct? These are all easements within the plat?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct. These roads will not be dedicated back to the village. They would be held in the Housing Trust Fund as one property. As Samantha mentioned during the conditional use hearing, we're going to be doing a summary plat on this and combining it all into one lot.
How wide are the roadway right-of-ways?
My understanding, it's no less than 20 feet.
For the road, the right-of-way? Wow. Okay. What about fencing? What is proposed for fencing along the north boundary and, if any, on the golf course side?
Mr. Chairman, the north boundary already has a chain link fence up on the lot line. It's currently owned by Mr. Pippin. We did set our setbacks 15 feet away from the property line to accommodate the two transformers that are set on the property line so that P&M can access them. It does require a 10-foot setback. We're going 15 feet so that on those northern manufactured or mobile home or modular homes, there could be an access or ingress, egress out of the backside. In case of emergency, there'll be steps coming out the back door. On the north side,
Okay.
We would be proposing some type of fence. Right now, when you walk along that trail, there are some places where there is the dog-eared fence. There's places where they have the chain link fence, and then there's places where they have, something that looks like wrought iron and then painted blue or whatnot. But we would be putting a fence up. We have not identified exactly what type of fencing it would be.
Are you going to put any fencing along the Meacham or the Family Dollar side? Or is that going to be open?
Mr. Chairman, on the Family Dollar side, adjacent to that, it's a big retaining wall, and it's a pretty good-looking wall. I think, so I don't believe fencing would help us. It currently has chain link fencing on their lot line, and oftentimes, they have their dumpsters. They got a retaining pond up there. It does appear that they have some drainage that does come onto our property. We will take that into consideration within our site development, in addition to identifying an easement that would serve the Dollar General for future sewer service to accommodate their property as well.
Good. Okay, back to the 20-foot roadway easement. That does not leave a lot of room for on-street parking, getting back to the Family Dollar concerns about we're having a family gathering, where are you going to park? So they're either going to park in the road or Family Dollar. I know on our previous site plan, we had kind of a community building with extra parking and all that stuff. I'm assuming because we're trying to maximize the capacity here that we don't have room for extra parking or community park area or anything for that.
Mr. Chairman, the community park area, that's a green space issue. We do believe that, Mr. Boyda and Mr. Cook are here to represent that, but we do believe that we are meeting that code by tying into the trail, for the green space and access to the recreational areas. We're not opposed to looking at this site plan where we place that center 16 by 80. We can consider taking that back down to a 16 by 44 or a 16 by 60 and placing it on the west end of that center property and setting it to one side and then developing. That would give us the ability to develop 8 additional community parking spaces in that area. I would not be opposed to that.
Mr. Chairman? Sorry, to clarify, you would be open to adding 8 parking spots, but you're claiming that the open space for the property is because it ties into the Lynx Golf Course and on a different property?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's continuous to the Lynx Golf Course, which is owned by the Village of Ruidoso. It's a public property.
What about drainage?
Mr. Chairman, we are under contract, and our engineer has agreed to, develop plans that meet the drainage standards of the Village of Ruidoso.
Okay.
Which are minimal.
Yes.
And sewer, sewer would be in Meacham, right?
No. Adam's here to address both sewer and water.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, the sewer is actually 250 feet away in front of Bill Pippin's on the jogging path. There is a manhole there to tie into.
Okay.
And it is drawn into this plan. You just can't see the colors.
It'll gravity flow?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And water is also along the trail. And, this plan does depict how the water system, the fire hydrants all tie in.
Okay.
It depicts the manholes and whatnot.
It does, and it will be a loop system with fire hydrants throughout the lots.
So, since Adam's here, I was reading some of the staff comments and everything, and it looks as though that some of the issues, they're asking for further study. So everything that the staff says they need further study, the engineer is going to do that before we start construction.
That's correct.
Okay.
So Mr. Chairman. So point of clarification, we don't know what the final site plan will look like as of right now, based off of that.
This is a preliminary.
Preliminary site play out land, but we don't know when that final plan will be done, and we don't know what the changes will cause from that, right?
That is correct. However, I think we can, we can make these into a motion of what and how we want it structured and what it looks like and what it needs to be, and set aside parking, set aside drainage. I think we as the commission can do that right now.
Okay.
So if,
Mr. Chairman, that's
so
correct.
choose.
Even on the drainage plan, when you look at the code, the code actually defines the minimal drainage plan. So oftentimes when you approve a site plan like this, and it's been common practice, the commission would make a motion to approve it, pending the site plan meeting the standards that are outlined in the code. And that's actually helped developments move forward as opposed to holding them up, holding processes up.
Right.
My curiosity is that just like the green space being contiguous to the links, you also have a pond down there that, can you also run that drainage on into that pond that's on the links?
Mr. Chairman, that's a little bit above my pay grade, but I don't believe so. I think we need to deal with the drainage on site, and Eric Boyda could talk to more about that, but our professional engineer would probably be addressing that on site. Yeah.
Chairman Briley, commissioners, so we would
we would need to handle the runoff on site. That pond there is actually a irrigation pond, so we would be breaking water right laws by capturing that water and then using it to divert onto the golf course for irrigation.
Other than that, I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about trees. Let's get the forester down here to talk about trees.
So do you have a detention or retention pond planned, or where would you put it on this kind of crowded?
Riley,
Yes.
Commissioner. So with the revised unit number in there, it should be easy for us to find adequate storage for drainage. That not only will capture the drainage off of the developed property, but I think there's even a secondary opportunity to catch the overflow off of the Dollar General.
Okay,
I think so too.
thanks.
So how are we going to save all the trees?
With the number of trailers and parking spaces and things, there are going to be a lot of trees that have to be removed. However, there is enough space there that there'll be a significant number of trees remaining too. And any thinning we do will meet our village code for our fire abatement. And essentially, what we have planned is that the roadways, we're going to remove the trees, but we're going to leave about a 4-foot stump so that they can go in and push the stumps over and remove them for the construction of the road. And the trailer spaces will be cut at ground level since they're skirting and they're going to be built up. And that's the way those will be prepared. And then the rest of the area will be, there may be some other trees removed to meet our current standard for fire abatement. And there's a number of small alligator junipers there that are invasive. Most of those will be removed.
So
That's what it is.
my question and concern, and I think this is what the family Dollar General people had to say, is because we're moving in all these modulars and manufactured homes, just to get them in, we're going to have to take out trees. It would be nice to have 1 or 2 of the nice trees per lot, but it's going to be hard to do that, I'm assuming.
No, I don't think so. I
Good.
think we'll have maybe 2, 3, or 4 trees per lot remaining at least.
Good.
I like that.
Good. Yeah, me too. We have any grass or anything around what are you going to do around the home itself on each lot? Will it be grass, gravel, what? Have you planned that out?
We haven't really talked much about landscaping and planting things, but it'll, most of our areas, we require, if we're going to do any planting of grass and those kind of things, it'll be our mixture that we have for the village, which would be mostly low water using short grasses, so we don't get the big grasses, bunch grasses like the one that burned McBride. And anything else will be, we prefer native species for any kind of seeding we do. And so those things will be considered. Right now, I don't think we're planning on, at least I haven't been involved in any landscape except for the trees.
And as commission, we can talk about landscaping if you want to put certain requirements. That is part of our duty is for the site plan development is landscaping. Any more?
Mr. Dodge said earlier that it was going to be managed by a real estate company. So who will they be in charge of maintenance on trailers and the landscaping itself, or is it going to be up to the individual who's renting the property? Or
Mr. Chairman, the individuals will have to, maintain their individual properties. It'll be overseen by the management company to make sure that they're in compliance.
Okay.
And then, the whole financial operation of it's built into operation, maintenance, repair, and replacement funds being set aside to address those issues.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Go.
what's the total square footage that we'll have on this property?
Mr. Chairman, we haven't, I don't have those numbers. I haven't measured each one of them, but we can put that together and put that on the final plat.
Yeah, I think that would be good. Because I don't know if we'll hit the 90 if it's a certain number of square foot, right? That's the goal, is to hit 90 per square foot, $90 a square foot for this development.
The 90, 70 and $90 a square foot that I was talking about specific to the units.
Okay, so that's not including land costs.
That's correct.
Or infrastructure or landscaping.
Right, which the land cost is about 10% of the budget that the village has, roughly.
Yes, and some of our numbers are coming in a little bit better than that, but, you know, it just depends. And when we start to look at, like, for instance, the roadway, I don't know if you're looking at the budget, but that's an in-kind work that will be done by the village.
I think you've heard me on the,
Mr. Chairman, just one thing, like when you look at that cost estimate we put together, we put some assumptions in there, especially like on the mobile homes, modular homes, whatever we want to call them. But as we look at it, we'll be finalizing that bid next week, and then we'll be able to update those cost estimates.
okay, so on this plan has lighting and dumpsters and fire hydrants. And so I'm assuming the fire hydrants meet code. What about the lighting? Is it needed to have a street light at every intersection? That's up and beyond anything we have in the village so far.
Mr. Chairman, for additional, you know, aesthetics of the area and safety and whatnot, we are going to be following the night sky ordinance and having directional lighting on each of the corners of what we're proposing.
Very good. What about dumpsters? We only have 20 foot of road. Where are you going to put those that's not going to impede traffic and two-way traffic? Do you have a place for the dumpsters, the dumpster enclosures? I think I talked about that last time at one of our other site plan things.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we'll do 7 parking lots.
Commissioner Briley, members of the commission, we're working on the dumpster plan there, and we'll make them, we want to make sure they look, the aesthetics on them look nice, and if we have to do some sort of enclosure, it won't be the front part of it, but, you know, to place them in there on concrete or whatnot, we'll be able to, you know, we work that into the plan, and I think Samantha has them where Jerry wanted them on the plan there, so it's where his, where he.
Yes, the solid waste managers recommended that they be placed at these locations. Also, they don't want enclosures at any sites throughout the village anymore.
It's just hard to get in and out of those.
They are hard to get in when they try to, you know, they just, with the trucks and all, and then it ends up, they having more other stuff they put in there, so it's pretty.
I don't care.
We want to make them look.
You're still going to enforce all subs having theirs.
Which brings us, what about the
Okay, any
signage?
more questions?
Signage? What kind of, what are you calling this place? What are you putting on the sign? Yes?
We haven't named it. I think we're going to take that back to the council, let them name it.
Yeah.
I believe there's a process for that, so you know, we'll go back to the council and see how they want to handle the naming of the site.
I have a comment. I think this is going to be a project that will be viewed by the rest of the village for future development, and that it is imperative that it be done right because it will be a standard by which all future development will be judged.
That's correct, Mr. Commissioner. That's what we're wanting to do. Develop a model that can, you know, set that standard and,
Right.
and,
So commissioners, is there any more questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, would you be willing to go on record to say that future projects would prioritize density? If this is being used as a model, admittedly, I think we can all agree that there is recent activity that's shading the development of this, right? 17 members of our community are hurting and need a place to stay. This might not be the most, not thorough process, but typical developments would usually take longer from conception to implementation. And so to Commissioner Byer's point, is there a way to prioritize density and more longer-term housing in future developments? Because I know that the village does have a lot of land.
No, I'm not willing to go on record.
Hey, that's a fair answer.
It's
Chairman,
very
that's-
flexible.
You know, that's really not something that I could, bind the community to. I can say that, we do have 603 Meacham, and that property is already has a, it's a multifamily situation on that property, it is one lot. And when we're looking at that lot, we will be coming back, even though it's permissive as it stands, we will be bringing applications back to the commission for consideration on the development of that. And we are looking at less units. That's currently 5.5 acres. And we're looking at adding no more than 9 more units to that property. So, we will take that into consideration as we look at those type of developments. But if there's something that is in that area that we're talking about here, that is conducive and is kind of the same type of layout, it would have to be my recommendation as the manager to, consider this type of density as well.
Mr. Chairman, another question.
Go ahead.
Have the financials been run? Would this project be feasible if there was a condition to have the manufactured module homes on foundations?
No, that hasn't been considered.
Okay.
It could be evaluated, but, I don't see what the value of placing them on foundations would be unless
Storage.
excuse me? Storage?
But typically, and this is just my experience, manufactured or module homes on foundations retain their value a little bit better than those that are staked. And if this is the intention for this property to remain in the village trust, you would want an appreciating or consistent asset rather than a depreciating asset.
Good comment. Ron, I see you
I'm not
are,
opposed to it.
Well, I actually
Unmuted.
have a comment
go ahead.
that Commissioner Rigsby is talking about right now. I think, actually, and I'm speaking from experience, my family owned the largest mobile home park in South Texas at one time. We had 900 sites. And the mobile home does retain a lot more value if it sits on all it has to be is a pier. You don't have to pour a full concrete pad, but if you do strips, it helps the mobile home actually to sit better, and you don't get buckles in the mobile homes or anything else. So if we're going to go this route, I would like to see these maybe put on strip foundations. And also, we need to, a point of contention is usually the entrance of the modular home or the mobile home. And so we need to put either a patio or a nice stairway going into it, and not something that we pick up off the mobile home lot and bring it over and stick it in there. Because Bart's right. This is a plan that the entire city is going to look at. And we have to make this palatable for a lot of people. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Ron. Glad you joined the meeting.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, we're not opposed to putting it on piers. I think we actually talked about piers.
I think what he said, the strip.
Yeah.
It'll create less maintenance and headache in the long run. And
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can evaluate that, and, we're not opposed to it. And even, the idea, some of these units do have, the single, they have a porch in front of them. And, that's kind of what we're looking at. We're looking at trying to purchase as many that look like a rustic type of situation and not just, and on the other ones, we can look at the cost of adding, a $20,000 porch on each one. No, just kidding. The porch will be more than the mobile
They're
home.
only 17.
No, but we
don't need to go there.
You know, to his point, I think we can make sure that the entrance is, you know, we can do some work on that. That's not a problem. We got some wiggle room on that.
Chairman Briley, members of the commission, you know, we want to, you know, with this project, we do want the aesthetics, we want it to look nice, like cabins, like, just like Manager Dodge said, and make it look really like a community with nice little cottages, they call them casitas, you know, in like in other areas, and be able to have that when people drive by and see that and just say, wow, you know, that is just amazing. So we want to make sure we're looking at all that, so.
Yeah, and you said you're coming in 400 grand under what you have as far as money. Some of that could be, you know, used to.
And we can always raise more money too.
Improve aesthetics.
Chairman Briley, we also know a contractor that's retired that we could.
All right, we're losing control here. So,
Mr. Chairman, I have another question, if that's okay, sorry.
I was going to ask Rick, he's been online. Do you have any questions, Rick?
No, sir, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, the question is around parking spots. What's the material that those parking spots will be? Will it be gravel, paved?
Mr. Chairman, initially, they would be the same material that we'll be using on the roadways. It's going to be recycled, you know, millings that we're going to be placing on there, which will be all-weather roads. And eventually, we want to come back and when Josh has enough time, he's back there, he's not going to be working on the traffic circle, he'll come back and we want to eventually pave the whole thing.
To be clear, that's the Upper Canyon Circle, not a new roundabout.
I'm so glad you said that, Sam.
I just want to throw that out there.
Will be exploding.
We're getting ready to pave that circle up there.
So, to his comment is all weather does not necessarily mean paving. And so it's going to be a gravel milling type of material, not paved or concrete and such. So I'm always concerned about dust as well as dust during construction. And so I just want to make sure we're taking care of things.
Yeah.
If there's no more questions, I'm going to ask Ms. Burns if she got a lot of her questions answered.
Thank you, Chairman. That's so kind of you. I am very encouraged. I really like the idea of the additional guest parking. And I would like to keep the dialogue going with Mr. Senna. I can see us possibly requesting something in the lease that will notify the tenants that they are not allowed to park in the Dollar General lot. So everybody is fully aware of that. We may have to put some posting up about it and I certainly don't want to pay anybody's, towing fee. So, I really appreciate anyway that you anticipating that. And if we have management so that, if there's a vehicle that's maybe, let's say somebody has a vehicle and they are intending to, let's say, do an engine and to keep it running, and then they pull it into that spot of those 8 spots, I'm hoping that would not be allowed either. That it would not be used as just some place where somebody can just tow a non-working vehicle or a non-licensed vehicle and think that that's just fine too.
That makes sense.
Since I work with the Housing Authority, I anticipate all kinds of problems, which is probably beyond bringing up at this point, including security. I want to make sure that the police, can have, good access. We didn't talk about the mailboxes. Could you just address the mailboxes and then I'll just listen. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come back on.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. I don't know where the mailboxes are, so if somebody respond to the mailbox.
Most residents go to the post offices that's nearest their property, but there could be a cluster box at the entrance depending on what the USPS requires.
Doesn't Mr. Pippin have a cluster box in his area further down?
Not familiar.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, a question concerning fencing of the individual properties. Will there be a stipulation in the lease, and you might not know this answer, that they cannot fence or otherwise enclose their property, or where the plot is for the mobile home, modular home?
Mr. Chairman, on the lines, we may at some point in time actually come in and put, some privacy fences between the homes to provide, additional privacy for them, but we're not planning that at this time.
That brings up the question of pets.
Of what?
Pets.
Fences and pets.
Yeah. Pets,
Make- fences
dogs
make
and,
pets.
are you going to allow them or?
Well, I know that there's certain pets that we can't discriminate against either.
Well, you can discriminate against all of them or none of them.
We'll address pets within the management agreement, but, yeah, we'll make sure we're not violating any pets' rights either.
Mr. Chairman.
Wild horses included.
Yeah, I knew that.
Go ahead.
Another clarification, and I apologize, you mentioned this, but it slipped my mind. So you reduced the density to 17 by putting in some new, larger 3 and 4 bedrooms. What was the rationale behind that?
Accommodating larger families.
Okay. And is that in line with our housing plan? If I remember, the most need was from 1 to 2 bedrooms and at most 2 to 3. That's 305 compared to the other units that I saw on that plan.
It's more based on the families that we know that have been displaced.
Okay. So these are being developed with those families specifically in mind?
As first priority, yes.
Okay. So would you be amenable to going back to the higher density? I know that doesn't help some of the larger families, but if this is for long-term
No,
housing.
I think that's a property owner issue, and I think that we've identified, so we would not want to go back to a higher, we're agreeing and reduced to 1 and going with 3, but we need at least 3 to serve the population that we have identified.
Okay.
Any more questions? What's the pleasure of the commission? You have a lot of information if you want to make a lot of addendums to your motion or additions, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Point of order, what would be the best way of adding some of those conditions? Would it be starting the motion and then listing out the conditions? Would it be agreeing upon each individual condition and then voting?
I think making the overall motion with the conditions of, and just list them that we put on there.
There might be iterative motions then.
True.
Okay.
There could be somebody that doesn't like that addition. You're right. Say, here, do this.
Yeah.
Notes.
I guess I'll make the motion.
Let's go.
Based upon the foregoing findings of fact per 54-67 and 54-100 of Village Code, I move to grant the requested site plan and concept approval for case SP 22-179 with the conditions stated and additional conditions as follows. The modular or manufactured homes must be placed on foundation piers or strips as discussed in the meeting. Additional guest parking must be incorporated into the community as appropriate. Where possible, green space must be included or added, even if it is within the particular plat. I would argue that the landscaping should mimic the natural vegetation of the area and can be defined as open space. The final conditional use is the site plan would adhere to the original plan that we were given at the beginning of the meeting with the 19 units of density.
Is that it?
That's all my conditions.
Okay, so the last condition, I didn't understand what you mean, adhere to the original 19 units.
Right, what we were given at the beginning of the
Right.
meeting,
Mm-hmm.
prior to the one that was changed with the 16 by 80, just the first one that we got in the meeting.
So you do not want to go with the new plan that the village has proposed?
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody
Mr. Chairman,
question with
I
that one?
object to that. I would not be able to provide the housing units, or I mean, the additional parking units or the additional space if we were to do that. So,
Okay. Before we have a second, shall we talk about that one? Because I hear what you say, and I understand what Jacob's trying to say too. And so what's the pleasure of the commission on that one or any of those conditions?
Just for clarification, the code requires 2 parking spaces per unit.
Correct.
Mr. Dodge was saying that the reason for changing the 19 to 17 was because of to accommodate the families
Larger families.
that are in need now. So I think that we should stay with the 17 because we need to accommodate who are displaced. I don't know, if we go back to 19, we won't have enough 3-bedroom homes to accommodate everyone who's in need.
Yeah, this is far short of the need anyways.
Yes, but he already has 17 on the books that need immediate.
We're talking about.
Would you be okay with,
I'll argue that this is not meeting the need when we're looking at the overall workforce housing plan.
It is not.
And we're all in agreement with that, and we know that's needed. That's why I'm advocating, although I feel for the 17, especially the larger families, if we're investing $3.6 million and incorporating this land, developing it, I think we need to look as long-term as possible. Thus the foundations, thus the density.
okay?
I have a question. The ones that were there before, were they 2-bedroom or 3?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, there are 2 bedrooms?
They were 2 bedrooms?
Yes.
Now they're 4 bedrooms, and we have 3?
Combination of 2 and 3. Point of clarification, sorry for interjecting there.
The ones that were there before, the 16 by 60s, those are 2 bedrooms.
Okay, I thought that was different than what the packet stated with the,
Yeah, when you look at it, if you would, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the 16 by 44s, they sell a unit that is a 16 by 44 is a single bedroom with a living room and then a deck on the end. Or you can get a 2-bedroom, 16 by 40. Or when you go to the 16 by 60, those have a larger living room with 2 bedrooms. So all these 16 by 60s are all 2-bedroom units. There's no 3-bedroom units on there. And that's how come we came back and we need at least 3 3-bedrooms. And that's how come I agreed the 3 of the 3 bedrooms plus the one in the center, this 18 by 80 that we had drawn on the center part. If we leave one of those lots at a 16 by 44, then that gives us the space to pick up the additional common parking area.
Actually, you're gaining a bedroom.
so then what was presented as a sample in the exhibit was incorrect because there's 3 bedrooms present in this example.
Which one are you talking about?
Page 19. There's a master living room. Okay, so that's not an option at all within the site plan that we have here.
It could be an option. Right now, we have an invitation for bid open, and it doesn't close until next week, so we won't even know what exact layouts or models or what that we're going with, because it has to be price-based and.
Yeah, I don't see the dimensions on this one that's presented.
That's just a sample.
I just assumed, I'm sorry. I assumed that the 3-bedroom was an available option since it was provided in the exhibit.
Yeah, the 3 bedrooms, from what I understand, are the 16 by 80s. If that was, I don't see any dimensions on this one on page 19.
So then, another point of clarification, then, all these 16 by 44s, that's really just a 1-bedroom.
The 16 by 44s could be a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom.
Okay.
It could be a 1-bedroom with a porch or a 2-bedroom without a porch.
Okay.
And then the 16 by 80 is a larger living room with 2 bedrooms.
Okay.
And normally the ones that are facing the street in those 16 by 60s, those are a 2-bedroom.
Okay. And so, will you prioritize the bedrooms, I assume, over the deck?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Mr. Chairman, I'll amend my motion.
Go ahead.
I'll add a condition that we're going to prioritize the 2 bedrooms instead of the porch at the end. Instead of 19 units, dropping it down to 18 would be the other condition.
18 or 17?
18 is going to be the motion that I make to add the additional parking and the open space.
Just for clarification on the record, since there's so much back and forth on that, could you reiterate your entire motion so I have it correctly?
Certainly. Let me think if I can remember it. So my motion, did you write it down? I move to grant, or based on the foregone findings of fact 54-67 and 54-100 of the Village Code, I move to grant the requested site plan and concept approval for case number 22-197 with the conditions stated in the case report and the additional conditions that the modular or manufactured homes be placed on a foundation. Additional guest parking will be available on the location, green space where possible, even adhering to the plat, and that the individual units will be prioritized for the 2-bedroom. And then finally, that we move the original site plan that was originally 19 to 18 to address all the other conditions.
All right, so there is a motion of, there's no second on this yet. So do you want to discuss and vote on these conditions all individually, or you want to pick one? It sounds like the 18 versus 17 is the one question. So let's, I guess, discuss that.
Chairman,
Sir?
within the lease agreement that can come forth with the 3-bedroom units, there's nothing to say that 3 individuals couldn't rent 1 unit. Is that correct?
You mean 3 families?
Oh, like if you got
3
3
people,
guys.
three singles.
Correct. Could that be done?
Tim?
Mr. Chairman, we could work that into the agreement. Right now, we have some standard agreements, but we haven't finalized the agreement.
Thank you, sir. Also, we said foundations. Piers would be another option that would work, correct?
I think that was part of his motion. It was strips or pier foundations.
Right. Mr. Chairman, for simplicity, I move to discuss the last condition that I included in my motion, separate from all of the other conditions.
Let's do it. All right. I'm not sure how Robert's Rules takes that, but let's go ahead and let's discuss this. And he has made a motion to have 18 units versus 19 units. The village wants 17 units, so we can have more 3-bedrooms. So what discussion? You want to consider his sub motion? That's a word. Anybody?
I'll state my case. I want to ensure that we are being mindful of the current conditions, but I think we need to try to maximize where possible. In a perfect world, we're building that 55 unit, which puts a big dent in our workforce housing. But to Commissioner Baugh's point, this could house additional conditional 2 people in that unit from a non-like household. So it does incrementally add more units, and to the point that many have made, we're trying to address a problem that's going to take multiple steps. Thus, that I think having as many units on this property as possible is important.
Okay. So if there's no discussion about his sub-motion, we just need a second to the main motion, and I can say it again. Placed on foundation or piers, additional guest parking, green space where possible, prioritize the 2 bedrooms instead of patio, and adhere to to amend the original plat to 18 units instead of 19. Do I have a second? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and ask if there's another motion that y'all would consider.
I have a question, Alan.
Go ahead.
Tim, I know that they used to make a 70-footer that was a 3-bedroom. Have you guys looked into that, and would it change the plan at all that maybe we could accommodate maybe the extra mobile home in there?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I haven't seen a 70-footer, but, they may make one, I'm not sure. We can consider that, the bids are due next Friday. And the bid is such that they can, if somebody does make, there's 14 different manufacturers we're engaged with. If somebody does make a 70-footer, they may propose that, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
They used to make a 12-wide too, but.
Oh, I know.
You're not going there.
Mr. Commissioner, I just feel that, I understand where Jacob's coming from. Most people who are bigger families now, that there's no, 2-bedroom houses are really not very accommodating for a family. There's multiple children in families now, not just 1, 2 people. So, I understand maximizing the whole property, but 2-bedroom houses are not going to be accommodating for as many folks.
Understanding that point, Commissioner, the rebuttal I would have is that the priority of the housing plan says 1, 2-bedroom apartment. So maybe we need to reevaluate the housing plan or that point, and it would be my comment to that.
Any more discussion? Anybody else with a motion?
To keep us moving along, I will remake a motion. Same motion, the final point. I would ask that the applicant would prioritize as many units as possible. So if there is a 70-footer, and that would work with a 3-bedroom option, that we could get 18 units, that would be prioritized when they're selecting a vendor.
So you're amending your motion to make it just not
Not binding.
17, 18, or 19, just get as many as you can in
Get
there.
as many as you can,
You okay
but
with
no
that?
fewer than, no fewer than 17.
Okay, so you want to prioritize 2-bedroom units over patios and prioritize number of units not to be less than 17?
Correct, yep.
Chairman, I'd second that motion.
Okay, we got a motion, 2 seconds. Applicant okay with that motion and the conditions?
Yes, sir.
Very good. What else do we have to do on a Friday afternoon?
Vote on this.
Got to get a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bach?
Aye.
Commissioner Briley?
Yes.
Commissioner Byers?
Aye.
Commissioner McElina?
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rigsby?
Aye.
Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I move to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us online.
Hey, Alan.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, make sure you tell Tim they do make it a 16 by 70 3-bedroom.
I'll tell Tim right now.
Okay.
Thank you, Ron.
What is that? Oh, do they? By 70. I guess he was sitting there Googling while we were talking about it.